A white girl poses a very good question at what seems to be a college or university educative talk. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then don't forget to subscribe. Let's get into the video. Now, she poses a very good question to the white man who was hosted at this event to say if really they don't believe in white privilege, then how do they explain the disparity of 38.3% of the current inmate population, which is black, but according to the 2020 census data, only 12.2% of their national population is black. Here's the video.
Okay, so according to the Bureau of Prison Statistics from last month, 38.3% of our current inmate population is black, but according to the 2020 census data, only 12.2% of our national population is black. So if you don't believe in white privilege, how do you explain this disparity?
So why are they in jail?
It has been this way for years, since the 90s.
No, why do people go to jail?
Why are black people in jail at higher rates than white people?
That's the question, right? Maybe because they commit more crimes than white people.
But that's not true. It actually is.
They do. So every independent analysis shows that blacks have committed a disproportionate amount of crime. No one wants to say it out loud, but it's true. In fact, in New York, 52% of murders committed by blacks, 40+% of arson, 60+% of drug deals. And so the question you should really be asking is what drives them to commit crimes? That's the question, right?
We've all heard how the white man in this video just quickly rushed to just saying that then it's because black people create more crime than most people. Now, all these crimes being mentioned in this video being claimed to be done by black people, actually most of them are not even done by black people if we look at it very well. Now, if really this was true, then we, the black community, wouldn't have called for the Black Lives Matter movement. But what caused that? If this was also true, why is it that we have more black people being put over most of the times by the police, even without having done anything, just because of their color? It honestly doesn't add up, and I'll be back with more receipts to prove this man's answer was a lie. For now, let's watch these clips.
Y'all give people like this too much attention, but here goes nothing. Number one, if black people are only 13% of the population, but 81% of the time when a white person is killed, they'll kill a white person, how in the hell can you conclude that black people commit the most crimes in America? Number two, you keep on bringing up this homicide rate, racializing it about a black thing. The red represents black people. This comes from the National Registry of Exonerations. We see that not only homicide, but all crimes, black people make up the majority of the exonerations. Let's keep on going. Number three, African Americans who are convicted of murder are about 50% more likely to be innocent than any other convicted murderer, to spend a longer time, even if they're innocent. Number four, you say that black people commit the most crimes in America, but white people are most likely to commit a mass shooting or domestic terrorism, and I guess you don't care about that, huh? Number five, y'all stop tagging me because she don't want nothing with me, man.
Black people are more likely to be killed cops because they commit the most crime. It's cap as shit. This is simple black theory, and let's talk about this. We have to get rid of this crazy thought that every police interaction is with a criminal. It has been reported that 31% of those who were killed by police officers were during violent interactions, meaning 69% or more of those killings could have been preventable. And with further investigation, most of these deaths were during non-violent crimes, such as wellness checks, traffic stops. In fact, there's evidence that the most common police-initiated interaction comes from traffic stops. Looking into this more, it reveals that black people only make up 13% of drivers, while white people make up 58% of drivers that are on the road. And yet we are 2 times more likely to be pulled over, 3 times more likely to be searched, which is why black people are 2.9 times more likely to be by a police officer than a white person. But black people are less likely to get a DUI, which is one of the leading causes of car crashes, and an article has stated that there is no significant difference between speed between minorities and white drivers. But yet we still have crowds saying, dude, black people commit more than half of violent crimes. You can't deny that as facts. What the f? Hey, this is NBL Haji from the Nation of Black Liberation, and let's flambe this comment. Because people use this table to push the 1350 statistics, we're gonna use this table, the FBI's 43 table, to explain why this is wrong. Now, I personally hate using the FBI reportings, and I'll put a separate video on why, but all our information and evidence is going to come from this exact table. So on the FBI website, violent crimes are categorized as unalivings, scrapings, robberies, and aggravated assaults, right? So by looking at this graphic, you can see that the first 4 charges are violent crimes. So that means I can add up all the crimes and figure out how much violent crime has happened in 2018. Okay, we did that. Now let's add up all the violent crimes that white people did in 2018. Whoa, this seems way too easy. So let's do the same thing for black people. Okay, the hard math is done. Now, before I reveal the results, go ahead and screenshot this and do your own math to figure out if I'm lying. When dividing the total number of white people who've been charged with violent crimes to the total number of charged violent crimes, we see that 58% of that is white people. And if you're wondering what is black people, it says 37%. I do like to mention that these are based on arrest and we should not take this at face value. But god damn, you made no sense. Wait, I'm actually getting another message. I can't read it with these locks.
If you only watch one of my videos all the way through, this is the one to watch. I am so tired of seeing racism in my comment section, and I can prove their racism with math. So I'm going to talk about this one more time, and then I'm going to go back to blocking these people. So when conservative news sources look at race, they look at cultural diversity and violent crimes and see how they correlate. But the thing is, they're not that correlated. In statistics, we use something called the Pearson correlation, which measures correlations between -1 and 1. When you get down to -1, it means a perfect negative correlation, and +1 means perfect positive correlation. The closer you get to 0 is the closer you have to not having a correlation, and this number is only 0.29, so there's virtually nothing here. Furthermore, if you want to know where the most correlation is between violent crimes, other than firearm laws and stuff like that, it's always poverty rate. Across the entire nation, whether or not you look at national averages, state averages, or even city averages, no matter what, you're going to find that violent crime correlates with poverty rate more than it correlates with almost anything else, with the exception of legislation. But I know what you want. You want to look at race. People like this always want to use specific data to profile against people of color, so I'm going to play your little game, but I'm going to use math. So this is the kind of data that people like this are normally looking for. This spreadsheet shows race and ethnicity, but also the number of offenders per 100,000. But the thing is, it's not number of offenders per 100,000 people, it's number of offenders per 100,000 of that particular demographic. Now let's add income. And when we do, the math doesn't know what skin color these groups of people are. All the math knows is that these group of people make this much money and has this many offenders per 100,000 people. As far as the math is concerned, the race and ethnicity here is just a name for these rows. But guess what the correlative value is when you look at income? It's 0.67. That is a hefty value for social sciences, and much higher than the correlation between cultural diversity and violent crime. Much higher. The thing is, on this chart, if there was a correlation between the number of crimes that people commit and their skin color, but it discounted income, then this R number would be negligible. It would be super close to 0. That's not the case. And according to the data, people in poverty are much more likely to commit crime, no matter what their skin color is. Some groups make slightly less money compared to the number of crimes they commit, and some groups make slightly more, but the differences are negligible. None of these groups commit more or less crime based on the dollar amount that they earn than any other group, at least not enough to throw off this correlation. Oh yeah, and there's one more thing about violent crimes that we need to talk about. Violent crimes committed by police officers to people of color. Now, finding racial profiling, especially by police officers, is extremely difficult, but we can look at police shootings, and when we do, we find that black Americans are killed at a much higher rate than white Americans. And since we know that they're not committing more crime than white Americans are, there is profiling in our police system. And here's the thing, when you sort by the states with the most black population, you'll find out that violent crimes aren't necessarily higher, but prison population definitely is. Which means even though they're not more likely to commit crime, they are more likely to be imprisoned, more likely to be killed by police, and more likely to be profiled by people such as this commenter. The color of your skin does not make you commit more crimes, but systematic oppression does make it look that way. So hopefully that helps, because this is the last time I'm going to say.
Now, the large growth of the United States criminal legal system in the late 20th century brought a widening racial gap in incarceration. By the year 2000, black people made up almost half of the state prison population, but only about 13% of the U.S. population. And although a wave of changes to sentencing and corrections policies over the past 2 decades has helped lessen disparities in federal and state prisons, black adults still were imprisoned in 2020 at 5 times the rate for white adults. Now, 2 factors, how many people go to jail and how long they stay, determine jail populations. As of 2022, Black people were admitted to jail at more than 4 times the rate of palm color people and stayed in jail for 12 more days on average across the 595 jails sample, contributing to the larger increase in population observed for Black individuals. In 2019, in all 3 countries, Black people were admitted to jail at a rate at least double and up to 6 times that of palm color or Hispanic people, and spent up to 12 days longer in jail than white people. Now, Black people were admitted to jail at a higher rate than other groups for both misdemeanors and felonies in all 3 countries, and typically spent the most time in jail for felonies. Black people were substantially overrepresented in 7 in 10 jails. Here's a picture showing share of the jails by level of overrepresentation of Black individuals in 2022. Now, this picture clearly indicates that in 26% of jails, the share of Black people in jail is over twice their share of the community. In 16% of jails, the share of Black people in the jail is at least 3 times their share in the community. In 29% of jails, the share of Black people in jail is at least 4 times their share of the community. Now, for the 595 jails with racial data in the JDI sample, this analysis found highly disproportionate jails admissions by race. Black people were admitted at 4 times the rate of palm color people on average in 2022. Here's a picture showing that. Now, historically, segregation and redlining have effectively isolated Black people in underinvested areas and contributed to structural disadvantages. Research has shown that Black and Hispanic individuals are more likely than palm color people with similar criminal histories and charges to be arrested and held in jail before trial, and that they tend to have higher bails set and receive lengthier and more punitive sanctions rather than probation. Now, here's another picture showing Black and Native American people disproportionately incarcerated in the United States. Now, all people need to be held accountable when committing a crime. It needs to be fair across the board. And we have come to the end of the video. What do you have to say about this? Kindly share your thoughts on this and let's hear your take on this. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video as I bring you yet another interesting video. Pardon my voice, I have a flu, but see you in my next video.